The media anchor with the most viewers and the most people talking about him just got fired. The day has come that I thought would have never happened. Stay tuned to learn more. Also in the news, transgender activists stormed the Montana House. But are these people going to be locked in jail forever? No, you got that right. All of that and more on this episode of The Demetrios Araujo Show.
Facts over tracks, isn't that spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.
If you don't already know, we have big news developing at Fox News. So starting from all the way at the beginning, on March 26th of this year, we had Dominion Voting Systems sue Fox News for defamation. They initially sued for $1.6 billion, but Fox News was not the only person being sued. Also caught up in all of this was the MyPillow guy Mike Lindell, Rudy Giuliani, Newsmax, and OAN. But we are going to be focusing on Fox News at the moment. Digging into this, we can already see that just the bare minimum to prove defamation lawsuits here in America, to prove somebody is defaming you, is very hard enough. Never mind adding more support when you are an actual journalist. According to NOLO.com, defamation is a false statement that injures another person's reputation. When the false statements are in writing, it's libel. When they are spoken, it's slander. The elements of defamation claim include showing that the statement was false, was something a reasonable person would think was a factual assertion, not just an opinion, was heard or read by at least one third party. Example, it's not defamation if somebody lies to you to your face and no one else hears it, and made the target of a statement looking bad. For example, by falsely claiming them a liar or a criminal. A defamation plaintiff also has to prove facts about a defendant's mindset when they made the statements. There are also two standards that can apply for the element of defamation. In most defamation cases, the plaintiff has to prove that the defendant made the statements because they were being careless, neglected, in legal terms. And plaintiff has to prove much more if they are a public figure or are involved in newsworthy events. They have to show that the defendant either knew the statements were false or had serious doubts that they were true. I really believe that settling this case out of court was the wrong thing to do, because we would have all liked to see this court case work out. But of course, Fox News doesn't want to defend somebody that said that the execs at Fox are ruining the credibility of the news site, especially when they gave up on the countless of other people when the smallest thing happened. They didn't want bad publicity, but they didn't realize that settling this out of court is not just conceding, but it's also running over the anchors that go out of their way every single day on air for their company. It would have also been beneficial for Fox News to go to court and prove with lawyers present instead of just settling for $787 million. In firing one of the most influential media personalities on the air today. Continuing, they also fire people that had a lot more viewers than Tucker Carlson because Fox News just does not care. With that being said, let's move on to the headlines of the week. Okay, so heading right into the headlines of the week, we actually are going to start off with this article from the Epoch Times. People need to accept that they are poor, says central bank economists. High inflation will stay prevalent unless people accept that they are poorer, a senior United Kingdom central bank official has said. The United Kingdom Consumer Prices Index inflation fell slightly to 10.1% in March from 10.4% in February, but remained in the double digits. According to the Office of National Statistics, ONS, Hal Phil, chief economic of the Bank of England, blamed the persistent inflation party on employees and businesses who have responded to higher bills and costs by asking for higher wages or charging their customers more money. This, he said, adds to inflation, pushing up prices even further across the economy. Speaking on the Beyond Unprecedented podcast from Columbia Law School, Phil said, the United Kingdom, which is a big net importer of natural gas, is facing a situation where the price of what you're paying from the rest of the world has gone up a lot relative to the price of what you're selling to the rest of the world, which is mainly services in the case of the United Kingdom. You don't need to be much of an economics to realize that if you are buying has gone up a lot relative to what you are selling, you're going to be worse off. So somehow in the United Kingdom, someone needs to accept that they're worse off and stop trying to maintain their real spending power by bidding up prices, whether they're through higher wages or passing energy costs to the consumers, etc. Okay, so this is just a stupid take. So you're saying that businesses should just take the hit and say, oh no, I'm getting poorer. So instead of putting up my prices and actually making a living wage and making a living in this industry, I'm just going to sit here and just not make any money. That's just stupid. That's just stupid. I just can't believe that this person has made it so far in life that you're in the top economics in the United Kingdom. So here it is. What my parents own a restaurant. If we pay more to our supplier, we're going to put up the prices. If we need to pay our employees more money, we're going to put up the prices. This happens once every 3, maybe 4 years, because every single 4 years, the prices have gone up so much that we don't make a profit anymore. So instead of us taking a loss when we sell things, we don't. We put up the prices, as do every single other business in America. If you want to make money, you need to put up the prices. Prices have gone so high that you need to put up the prices to combat with all of the other high prices. Inflation is at a record high. Usually inflation just goes up 3%, so people's pay raises 3%. But if the inflation raises more than 3%, then people's pay has to raise more than 3% to offset that inflation. If you want to cut down on inflation, then we need to raise the interest rate, because that's what combats the inflation. Now, yes, everybody has interest on credit cards, everybody has interest on houses, but that's just how it is. We're not going to sit here and say, no, you need to accept being poor. No, we're going to solve the economy by doing what all of the chief financial advisors say that we should be doing, and that's raising interest rates higher than what we've been doing. To try and pass the cost onto one of the companies and saying we'll be all right, but they're going to take our share too. That passed the peril game that's going on here. The game that won the generation of inflation and the part of inflation can persist. Tone deaf. Phil's remarks have triggered a backlash from unions and small businesses. The Federation of Small Businesses said his comments were out of touch. Exactly. The trade body said on Twitter, small firms will be rightly angered by the tone-deaf comments from Mr. Phil, left with no choice but to pass on huge cost increases to customers, which in many cases are not enough to fill the gap. Exactly. Amanda Garling, a senior organizer for the GMB union, said it was an absolutely outrageous for the bank official to ask some of our lowest paid workers in the industry to not take a pay increase when inflation is so high. Exactly. How are you supposed to pay your bills? It just doesn't make any sense. People can't afford to live. They're not able to pay their rent or put food on the table, she told the BBC's Today program. Thomas Moore, senior investor director at Alburn, told BBC 5 Live that Phil's words were a red rag to the bull. But he added, you can see that underlining all of this, he has got a point, which is as long as inflation stays high, we're going to demand higher wages. And as long as we demand higher wages, inflation is going to stay high. So, I mean, there's a point here, but there's something's got to pull. And that's what he's saying. But it's not the businesses that's got to pull from their pockets to give to you. Small businesses make a very, very small portion of what they're actually selling anyway. So let's just say you bought from a small business and you're paying $11. You're probably getting $2 out of that. Maybe $1, maybe $3 bare max. Like that's the maximum they're ever going to get. There's no way that these businesses are going to take a hit and just pay $1 and they're going to put their prices lower. No, what we need to do is we need to make sure that stuff stays here in America. If we don't send our businesses overseas, then we don't have to pay for the import costs. We don't have to pay for other people, and we bring jobs here in America. More jobs here in America. That's why I like to buy stuff that is made here in America. That's the best thing that we could possibly do. This is not the first time Bank of England officials have made similar arguments. Last year, the central bank's governor, Andrew Bailey, urged people not to ask for big pay raises. He told the BBC in February 2020 that we're going to need to stay resilient in pay bargaining. Otherwise, it will get out of control. Last month, Bailey warned businesses that they should not raise prices to beat inflation. If all prices try to beat inflation, we will get higher inflation, he told the BBC on March 24th, the day after the bank lifted interest rates from 4 to 4.25%. He said higher inflation hurts people and wanted the bank to raise rates again if prices continue to rise. Warned. Yeah, the bank would raise. Okay. I would say to the people who are setting prices, please understand, if we get higher inflation embedded, interest rates will have to go up further, and higher inflation really benefits nobody, he added. Food banks. The continuing prices rises are putting heightened pressure on household budgets across the United Kingdom. The ONS said last week that food inflation hit a 45-year high of 19.1% last month. According to new figures from research firm Kantar, grocery inflation fell slightly in April from last month's 17.5%, but consumers are still paying 17.3% more than this time last year. This has driven an increasing number of people to rely on food banks. And according to the Trussell Trust, a total of 2,986,203 emergency food parcels were giving out between April 2022 and March of this year. The most partials food banks in charities United Kingdom-wide network have ever distributed in a single year. It represents a 37% increase compared to the previous year and is more than double the amount distributed by food banks the same period 5 years ago, the charity said. More than 760,000 people used a food bank in the network for the first time, a 38% raise on the first-time users compared to the same period last year. This is increasingly worrisome. I mean, people can't afford their bills, so they have to go to food banks to get food. It's just a sad situation over here. And yes, I mean, Walmart is the best place that you should be getting your food. Don't go to Whole Foods, it's too expensive. Just go to Walmart. Okay, moving on to the next article from the headlines of the week. We actually have a Project Veritas article. We have Cash Cow. Pro-transgender medical professionals cashing in on lifelong patients. Dr. John Stewart, Pediatrics and Adolescent Medicine, Mount Sinai Adolescent Health Center, New York, says, in the beginning, it's a lot of doctor visits, but after a while, you space it out. Like every 6 to 12 months, which, is going to be a patient, but that doesn't seem so bad. Dr. Stever, the permanent effects of testosterone are things like facial hair, body hair, enlargement of the clitoris, and the last one is vocal pitch drop. And so those are effects that once they happen, don't reverse. So it's not reversible. Dr. Matthew Warkin, pharmacist, 38th Street Pharmacy, Austin in Texas. For a female going to male, if they would continue, you would continuously take testosterone pretty well for the rest of your life. Dr. Warren, if there's enough changes to the physical body from undergoing gender transition treatment, I don't know if patients would be able to, have a baby, naturally speaking. Nora Scott, licensed social worker, Dell's Children Medical Center in Austin, Texas. I can say from here as well, I think a lot of folks at our clinic who are on the autism spectrum, there is a heavy amount of crossover between folks who are somewhere on the spectrum and also elsewhere on the LGBTQIA, NMNOPQRSUVWXYZ, divide by symbol, plus symbol, emoji symbol of a face emoji and a poop emoji. Prisa Mosley, detransition advocate. I was under the impression that I was going to take a cure and be handled. And I don't understand as a mentally ill child that I was signing up for a lifelong medicalization. I didn't conceptualize the idea that I was going to be injecting this medication every 2 weeks forever. And I'm very, very glad that she actually realizes this. And I'm very, very glad that she's speaking out against this, because this is very harmful. And this actually makes me proud of her for sticking up and actually going against the grain here. New York, April 25th, 2023. Project Veritas released a third video in a series of exposing pro-transgender medical workers today, with this report revealing how transgender health industry functions and profits off underage patients on long-term basis. Dr. John Stewart, who was featured on an earlier Veritas video, is seen talking about how young individuals are subjected to prolonged gender transitions. In the beginning, it's a lot of doctor visits. Okay, we already went over that. Dr. Matthew Pabas, who is another New York-based medical professional featured in the Veritas investigative series, believes that there may be a connection between people on the spectrum and their desire to change genders. It was a person on the spectrum as well as 21 years old at the time. He was coming here for mental health, and he came down here and he just sat down, and I'm like, what are you here for? He's like, oh, I saw you do transgender. I said, yeah. He's like, well, I think I need to get my penis cut off, Dr. Pablos said. I was like, transitioning is not easy. It doesn't happen like this. You have to inject yourself with hormones. You have to take pills. You have to do blood work. If he makes it, then let's do it. But he's not going to get a vagina next week in 1 year. I just can't. I can't believe that society has came to a point that we're just... Will you just feel comfortable going up to a doctor and asking them that? You just sat down. I want to get my penis. I feel so bad for them. My God. I laugh so I don't cry because I'm going to cry. How can we come to a point in society that you literally feel comfortable going up to a doctor and asking them to cut off your penis? And as a doctor, you don't, this is not a red flag here. You just sit down. Yeah, I want to get my penis cut off. Like, oh my God, I can't. Okay, we're going to move on. I can't with this anymore. Project Veritas, you're doing an awesome job. I know there's no James O'Keefe anymore. James O'Keefe is in O'Keefe Media Group. I know. I love James O'Keefe too. But Project Veritas, you're doing awesome. Okay, I'm going to say it. I don't care. You're doing awesome. Moving on to the next segment, we actually have the media's takes.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take I got no love.
Moving to the first article, we actually have a CNN article. We have the Tennessee expulsions reveal the core divide in the United States politics. Here's why. So the divide in the United States politics is actually that people that have a brain compared to people that do not have a brain. That's the comparison. Rarely have the tectonic plates of the American politics collided as visibly and explosively as they did earlier this month in Tennessee. The procession of predominantly middle-aged or older white Republicans who rose almost 2 weeks ago in the Tennessee House of Representatives to cascade and then expel two young black Democrats crystallize an overlapping generational and racial confrontation that underpins the competition between the political parties. The Republican vote to expel these black Democratic representatives, Justin Pearson and Justin Jones, encapsulated in a single moment that struggle for control over the Americans' direction between the nation's increasingly diverse younger generations and mostly white older cohorts. While kids of color now comprise just over half of all Americans younger than 18, whites still contribute about 3/4 of the nation's seniors, according to census data analyzed by William Frey, a demographer at Brooklyn's Metro. The stark division, what Frey terms the cultural generation gap, and I've called the competition between the brown and the gray, has become a cultural fault line in the nation's politics, particularly in the Donald Trump era. The Republican coalition has grown increasingly resilient on the older whites, while younger people of color are evolving into critical component of the Democratic voter base. The priorities and values of these two giant cohorts often clash mostly explosively in red states across the South and the Southwest, like Tennessee, where Republicans now control the state government. In those states, Republicans are moving aggressively to lock into law policy preferences of their older, predominantly white and largely non-urban and Christian electoral coalition. That agenda often collides directly with the views of the younger generations on issues including the LGBTQRSTUVWXYZ plus minus divided by poop emoji rights, limits on classroom discussion of race, gender, and sexual orientation, banned books, and gun control. Across the red states, the conditions and correlations for years of escalating conflict between these two divergent generations. From one generation, the Republicans controlling these states and applying increasingly hardball tactics. Oh, those people to advance their policy agenda and entrench their electoral advantage. That strategy includes several gerrymanders that dilute an influence of urban areas where younger voters often congregate, laws and create obstacles to registering and voting, in extreme legislative maneuvers such as vote to expel Pearson and Jones. Oh, their maneuvers, man, their maneuvers. How do people listen to CNN? How do people not? How do people read CNN in this case? I'm having such a ball. Oh my God. How do people read CNN and actually just not laugh? Their maneuvers, man, their maneuvers. Listen, that's within the law to expel people that broke the House rules. If you go into the Capitol and you start yelling in a blowhorn, you're gonna be expelled. If you're a congressman, if you're a senator, you're gonna be expelled, man. I just don't know what to tell you. You broke the rules. Rules are for they, not for me, I guess. If other people did that, like in the Republican side, then you will be arresting them on January 6th. But if they did it on what, when was this? January 8th, I guess? March, whenever this happened? Oh, April 6th. April 6th. It's worse than January 6th. Okay, so if these people, just because they're black, get expelled, it's a whole thing. Oh, like, how do people read CNN and not laugh? There are maneuvers, their tactics in there, their whiteness. Like, what are you talking about, CNN? I just don't understand what you're even saying right now.